Boys and girls, we're here with another top 5 video. Now, this one is actually more related to my tech. So this is the top 5 favorite Linux distributions of 2017 thus far. The caveat I want people to understand is this is a personal list. I've used a lot of distros, and each one has its pros and cons. So for me, it really depends on the distro. These are not necessarily new user-friendly distros. These are distros that either I really enjoy using or I find personally interesting, etc. So if this is not your top 5 or any of these do not meet your top 5, comment and tell me what your top 5 are. So first up, we have number 5. And for me, number 5 is actually Manjaro Katy. Manjaro's always been an interesting distro. I actually use it as my main distro on my gaming rig for when I game with Linux. The Katy implementation is always up to date. I do like the fact that it's Arch, but it's not quite Arch. It has there's usually about a 2-week holdback on packages and stuff, which I find very helpful. So you don't always get the latest and greatest and always the bleeding edge at initial release, but you still have the AUR and you still have a lot of the stuff that a lot of Arch Linux users love. That's just a personal flavor. So number 4. Number 4, we have another interesting distro that I personally enjoyed using for the time that I used it. I have since gotten rid of the machine, unfortunately, which means I got rid of the distro. And this one is KAOS, or Chaos, or however you want to pronounce it, the 2017 edition. This is straight up Katy 64-bit only, nothing more. And they make no qualms and no apologies about that. They focus on one toolkit, on one desktop, and one way of doing things. And in Linux, that is almost odd to see. We have so many toolkits. We have so many different things around in Linux. So it's really interesting to see a distro focus on what it wants to, and that's just one thing. And that one thing is what their goal is. And that is very commendable to me. Unfortunately, there are a few drawbacks to that. I'm not sure if the new version has Skype or not. I have not run it in about a month and a half or so. So there's no Steam. So because Steam is a 32-bit app, so you will not get that. So it's an interesting distro to try out. It does a few things interesting with the theming of KDE and the default placement of launchers and stuff. It is really one to really check out, though. It still has that. It uses Pacman as its package manager, but it's not Arch. It's an interesting way of doing things, and I find it a great distro to try, especially if you're KDE lover, and the sole focus on KDE. Number 3 for me for distros to look at is Deepin Linux, or Deepin. Deepin, it's always got this weird place in my heart because I love the aesthetics that Deepin goes with. Yes, it's Deepin based. Yes, it's not always the latest and greatest, unfortunately, but the desktop is mind-numbingly simple, but not a giant pain in the butt to use. And to me, that is something that is so worth the investment of time. Now you can run Deepin Desktop on various other Linux systems. I mean, you can run it. Manjaro's got a spin of it, but the cohesive product of everything that makes Deepin is why I love it. Now there are a few sketchy details about here and there. If you're not cool with running stuff from China, probably not the distro for you. Personally, for me, I'm okay with it. But for those that aren't, I understand why. So number 2. Number 2 is going to be a distro that gets a lot of flack. And, I find it find what's happening now after they make certain announcements that people are coming out of the woodwork saying they like certain things. And what distro is that? Well, the distro I'm talking about is Ubuntu with Unity. How many forks, how many ways have we seen just users, forks, and various things saying, this is how you do Unity and Katy, or Qt, or Qt, as you may want to say. This is how you get GNOME 3 to look like Unity and function somewhat like Unity. It's an interesting dynamic when you cancel a project that they put a lot of time and effort into over 6 years, and was reviled essentially by most of the most outspoken people in the community. And most of the users just didn't care. It was a desktop, whatever, use it, don't use it. So I find it interesting that a lot of people now are finding that there was some useful stuff in Ubuntu, and specifically Unity. I think it gets a lot of hate that it probably shouldn't have, because honestly, on certain desktop, certain computers and certain workflows, Unity is actually pretty good. Someone try running a 21.9 monitor on a laptop with something like KDE or GNOME or various other distros, and let me know how well that works for you, because you will love the vertical space that is saved in Unity. I'm just letting you know from personal experience. And number two, so that's a number 2 choice. And number 1, now for me, the number 1 distro is not going to be what most people think it is. I want to give one honorable mention, and that's to Solus and the Solus project. I'm loving the work they're doing. I'm waiting until things settle down a little with the desktop around Budgie, and they make that switch to 11 before I really get back into looking at it. That's just a personal thing. To those that love Budgie 10.3, awesome on you. I'm waiting for the switch. Now, number 1 for me, and this is one that Rob and I, or Linux Quest and I, reviewed late last year, about October, and it was called Blank on Linux, and we kind of joked that it hadn't been updated since 2014. Well, little did we realize, about 3 months after we did that video, they decided to update it. Having run it on various form factors, it's a really good distro, really new, user-friendly. Like the partitioner and the installer is like dead simple. It's like simpler than using Ubiquity. It is that stupidly simple. It doesn't give you a lot of options for advanced options in the installer, but in the desktop, I love that desktop. It takes everything that I like about the categorized view of GNOME, like the Deepin way of doing things, but makes it in such a way that it is still grouped applications. It is a really weird dynamic on how they, but I love that desktop that they have come up with for that. And I would love to see more distros use it. Yes, it's Debian based. I am not sure which branch of Debian, if it's SID or if it's, whatever flavor they're calling testing and the unstable branches now. But it is definitely worth checking out. I give it the highest props I can possibly give it. It is a great distro, in my opinion. So those are my top 5. Now, am I right or am I wrong? Because top 5s are subjective. I can't come across as objective in this because, let's be honest, any review, anything in this world, there's no such thing as pure objectivity. It's all in the guy. All we do for reviews, it is a subjective topic in the guise of objectivity. That's all these lists are. All personal opinion. So let me know. Am I right? Am I wrong? Give me your top 5. Comment down below. Rate it. Subscribe. Peace.